Oh, Mondays, they can be brutal. You had a great weekend and then you're like, I gotta get back to work, and it can be tough. Well, welcome to our online experience. I'm Jeff McLean, the pastor at the Point Church, and I'm excited to be able to talk about Mondays and how do we reclaim Mondays, even when they can be tough. How do we put God back into Mondays? What does that look like? And so we want to be able to help you answer the question, how do I reclaim Mondays? How can I be made for Mondays? How can God, through me, change how I impact Mondays and how I can impact other people's Mondays? And so I'm excited about that. My friend Jeff Brodie from Connexus Church in Ontario is actually going to be our guest speaker, and he's going to help us answer this question today. So let's get into that in a moment. Before we do that, I don't know if you've heard about Operation Christmas Child shoe boxes, but you want to make a difference, not just on Sunday, but on Monday. You can get a shoebox, fill it up with some amazing toys for a boy or girl, and then drop those off at the church. Or you can just do a digital version as well by going to Samaritanspurse.ca and do that. We love making a difference for Miramichi and beyond, and this is a really cool way. We've been partnering with Samaritan's Purse for years and years and years, where a kid not only can get a gift for the very first time in their life, but then they get to hear the gospel, the good news that Jesus came and loves them and saved them. And there's an opportunity for us to make an impact in somebody's life that you've never met before by simply making a shoebox filled with some amazing love. So lots going on. Stay in the know of what's going on. Before we get into answering this question, let's sing together first and get our hearts focused on who God is.
I wanna meet with you more than Sundays. I wanna know more than just my mother's faith, 'cause there's not enough to get through the rough. Oh, I need a Monday morning faith. I wanna hear you in more than just one way. Show your voice in all of the mundane things. You're in the in-between. You're in my everything. And that's all I really need. My soul sings in the morning. I love the King and He loves me. And all that I'm compelled to bring is my everyday offering. Let my worship be more than just singing. When the music become a religious thing, let these songs be what they're meant to be. The sound of your church awakening, and my heart to keep up with the heavens, where the angels sing 24/7 praise. You're more than enough to get through my rough. You're teaching me Monday morning faith. And that's all I really need. My soul sings in the morning. I love the King and He loves me. All that I'm compelled to bring is my everyday offering. Your mercy is new every morning. the saints arise and praising quiet on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. To know you, to love you, to choose you first on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. To see you, behold you, and worship, singing hallelujah, holy, holy, glory to the King of Kings, and hallelujah, holy, holy, honor and glory belongs to you. Hallelujah, holy, holy, glory to the King of Kings. Hallelujah, holy, holy, honor and glory belongs to you. My soul sings in the morning. I love the King and he loves me, and all that I'm compelled to bring is my everyday offering. Your mercy's new every morning. I come alive as you're calling, and all that I'm compelled to bring is my everyday offering. Monday morning faith.
Well, hey there, Jeff Brodie, lead pastor at Connexus Church. So excited to be with you at The Point. Love Jeff, love your team, and we're jumping into this brand new series called Made for Mondays. And I want to start with a question. Can you remember your very first job? The very first time somebody paid you to get work done and they weren't one of your parents? Now, I grew up in a family that work ethic was a big thing, and I had a lot of jobs early on. And one of those jobs was a paper route delivering the Ottawa Citizen. Now, some of you are like, what is a paper route? It's like DoorDash, but we bring you yesterday's weather and bad sports scores to your door, and we would deliver the paper. And I didn't have a paper route during the school year. Here's what I did. I found out that there were multiple people in my town, multiple kids, who didn't want to do their paper route in the summer because they were at the cottage. And I said, hey, I could actually take on a couple of paper routes. And then what I figured out was this. I figured out that I would make a certain amount of money for the paper route, but I could convince and cajole my sister and my best friend to deliver the papers for me and pay them in candy, which was a lot less money than what I was getting paid. So like I basically invented DoorDash is what I did, okay? And it was a great time of life. Phones were connected to walls. TikTok was the sound your clock made. Like it was a whole other time. And what happened was I would have them go out every day, and I would do one of the routes, and we'd go out on our bikes. And what ended up happening is I learned early on that our relationship with work is an interesting one. Because there were days I was so excited to go out. Sunny day, I got some people helping me, I'm making money, it's great. But there were other days when they didn't want to do it, where they were away on vacation, where they realized I was underpaying them and that there were child labor laws of some sort. When it rained, and I was like, man, I don't feel like I want to get up today and do this. Like, why am I doing this anyway? Like, all these other kids I'm doing this paper route for, they're all at the cottage. Like, why am I doing this job? And I learned early on what it's like to experience work, the tension that we feel around our work. And we really need to have a conversation about work. And we need to talk about it more often because you will spend a third of your life at work if you have a regular working life. Now, some of you will start work earlier. Some of you will work a lot longer. Some of you, because of the size of your house, you're definitely working longer. And all of us will spend that time at work. And then you've got students. Some of you are students. You're here working. Some of you are here, and for whatever reason it is, you're unable to work. And so you wrestle with the whole idea of work. Some of you are here are retired, and what you tell me is, I'm working even more than I was before when I was working, because I'm so busy doing all these different things, and there's so much to take care of, or you have a part-time job. Work is something that we all have a relationship with. And the question I want to ask you is this: how do you see your work? How do you see it? What's your relationship with it? How do you think about it? Whether it's paid work or it's unpaid work, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, or you're a retiree, or you're a student, or a mechanic, or a doctor, or a lawyer, how do you see your work? If I put you on a spectrum between purpose and paycheck, where would you put yourself? If you're like, well, I don't get paid, I'm a stay-at-home parent, let's say, do it because you want to, do it because you have to. Because some of you are like, well, I got purpose at work for sure, but like the dental plan is also good. Am I in it for the dental plan, or am I in it for the purpose of it? Like, where am I at on the purpose to paycheck spectrum? Where am I at the payoff? Maybe if you're a student, it's a purpose or payoff. Are you in the job because you love the work, or because you love the relationships, or you love the pay, or you love the benefits? And we all fluctuate on this at different points in our life. It's amazing to me. I've sat with people who have all kinds of careers, and it's amazing to me how they find themselves on the spectrum. I remember sitting with a CFO of a major hotel chain, and I was a youth pastor, and he's like, you know what, man? I don't have the purpose in my work like you have. And I'm like, yeah, but you got the dollar bills, you know? But we're all on a spectrum like this, and we have to talk about this. And one of the main reasons is this. Gallup did a poll in 2023. I think it's like 180,000 teams they polled, so it's like a lot of people. And they asked the question, how engaged are you at work? Like, do you feel regularly engaged? And when they said, how engaged are you at work, this is what they found. 23% were like, I love it. Fired up, get up every day, I'm actively engaged, I love my job, I bound out of bed, and I can't wait to go, let's go. I'm actively engaged. 62% would say, I'm not engaged. That when I look at the majority of days, yeah, like I do the job. Yeah, I go through the motions. Yeah, like if I looked at them, I'm not talking about your best day. I'm not talking about the day you make this big sale. I'm not talking about the day it all goes smooth, because that's like one day a year. But the day where, like just a regular average day at work, do you feel excited about it? And for many people, they would say, I'm not that engaged. Then you've got 15% who are actively disengaged. You know who those people are. Right? They're like super toxic. You don't want to sit with them in the lunchroom, right? Another way to look at this is these are the people who kind of are quietly quitting sometimes, right? It's like, you know who they are at work, right? They're like, oh, I just need to go for a vape break. And you're like, you already had 3 and it's 10 in the morning. Like, how much vaping does one person need to do? Right? These are people who are not engaged in work. And that is a lot of us, if we look at the majority of our days at work. Now, the other reason this is important, because that's only half of the equation to me. The other reason this is important is McKinley did a study in 2021, and they said, would you say that my sense of purpose is defined by my work? You know what the percentage was? 70% said my purpose is defined by my work. Like, if you own a company, or you are a supervisor, or you are a manager of any sort here, this takes your breath away. That on one hand, 70% of the people that you supervise are looking to the job you are providing for purpose. And at the same time, they are struggling to stay engaged when they don't have it. See, when I walk around, this is kind of my sense of things and why this resonates with me. Most people don't hate their jobs. Some of you do. You're like, I hate my job. And that happens. People go, I'm just doing it for the pay. You're like way on the paycheck side. Most people don't say they hate their job. But when I say, are you passionate about it? Or do you just love it? Do you wake up in the morning? You know what they say? Well, some days. Or when they're alone at night, they think, is this really the career I should have picked? Like, now I've been here 10 years and I don't want to lose my seniority, or I don't want to move, or I don't want to lose the pension, or I've got payments to make, or I'm already this far in school, or I don't really have a choice. I mean, here's the thing. Most people don't hate their jobs. They just don't find the meaning in their work that they crave. The purpose they're looking for in their work, they're not finding. And so you know what we say? The purpose is retirement. When I retire, then I will find my purpose. And my question is if the purpose of work is retirement, why do so many people struggle with purpose in retirement? It's the number one conversation I have with people when they retire. Number one, by a mile. It's like, then I was done work and I don't know. What am I going to do now? I don't know what to do now. I thought I would keep hanging out with my friends from work, but guess what? They're all at work. And now, I'm supposed to fish. I hate fishing. Golf, I don't want to golf. What am I doing? What is my purpose? And I thought I'd hang out with my grandkids, but it turns out that, they're cranky, they're messy. An hour is good, and then I want to drop them back. What is my purpose? And then we say, you know what we'll do? We'll make it easier. We'll make it more fun, right? So we go, we'll put a foosball table in the break room. That's going to bring meaning to your life. A foosball game on break. And we do stuff like that. And we try to incentivize, and we think maybe that's going to bring all the purpose. Or then the big thing was we'll create flexibility, and we'll let people work from home. And when people work from home, they'll find more purpose. No, what they found was flexibility. But what we're learning is they don't find much more purpose in their work. It actually allows them to kind of have more purpose at home, but not as much purpose at work. If the purpose of work is to make it less like work, why doesn't working from home give us more fulfillment? But people will say, well, I like the flexibility, but I wouldn't say my work has become more meaningful because I'm doing it on the couch instead of in my cubicle. When it comes to work, we struggle to find the purpose that we're looking for. And then there's a whole other thing around work, the people. They mess up the work part, right? It's ministry is great. If it wasn't for the people, it'd be so smooth. You know what I mean? It's the people, it's the problems, it's you're a bricklayer and you're I lay the bricks, but there's days that the concrete I'm not a bricklayer, but I'm guessing. It just doesn't come together. Somebody doesn't pay their bills. That happens a lot. They shorted me, they cheated me. This guy quit in the midst of a big job. There's problems with work. And work is challenging. And there's parts of it that feel broken. And there's parts of you that wonder, did I pick the right job? Did I pick the right career? What if the answer to finding meaning and purpose in your work is spiritual? What if it's spiritual? What if it's not practical? What if it's not educational? What if it's spiritual? That's what I want to look at in this series. And today, I kind of want to do a foundational piece on the spiritual side of work. And next week, we're going to talk about why people burn out, why people struggle with calling, why you wonder why this is the job you should have, all of that stuff. I'm going to talk about that real practically next week. And then the third week, we're going to walk away with some practical tools about how to live out purpose at work. But today, I want to talk about the foundational spiritual side of work, something churches don't talk about a lot. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the original job description, the very first job description, Genesis 1, the very beginning of the Bible. There is the original job description. And what you see here is in Genesis chapter 1, God is creating the earth. Now, if you're here today and you're like, whoa, I'm super skeptical, Jeff. I'm not sure about God creating the earth. Is this like a 7-day creation thing? I don't totally get it. Then just bear with this. Could an ancient manuscript actually have something to speak to modern times? Let's leave it at that with you. And some of you would say, yeah, I believe that God created the earth. And what I want to do is I want to walk you through the original job description. And God's creating the heavens and the earth and all of that. And then it says this, then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us. That we as human beings are the only thing on earth made in the image of God. The birds aren't made in the image of God. The trees aren't made in the image of God. He says, let's make human beings in the image of God to be like us. And it says, they will, interesting choice of words, they will reign. They will be in charge. Like God is in charge, they will be in charge of the earth, over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Clearly that's important. He's saying it 3 times now. Male and female, he created them. And then it says this, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. This, to me, sounds like work, right? Be fruitful, bear fruit, multiply things, take things and make them into more things. That's multiply. I'm not good at math, but I think that's what multiply means. Fill the earth, govern the earth, reign over the earth. These things are all things of work. That as human beings, there's a calling on us as human beings. We are made to work. That is a unique calling on being made in the image of God. Now, we might not say these words, right? You might not say to your spouse, like, I'm off to work. And you're like, great, be fruitful and multiply today, right? Like, that's not what you want to say. It could get taken a different way. And so, what would be the words we would actually use when it comes to work? Let me give you a few of these. Steward. That's what governing is, reigning is, stewarding something. If you're an accountant, you help people steward, right? You help them figure out what money they're spending, not spending. If you work at a bank, you're a steward. If you're a physician or in a medical profession, you're helping people steward their bodies and take care of them. A pharmacist, a naturopath, you're doing all of those things. You're helping somebody steward their body. The second would be to create. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you're a builder, if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, if you're a landscaper, you're creating all the time. You have the ability to create something. If you're a real estate agent, you're creating a listing. You're making things. You're making things possible for people. You're creating a business, many of you. The next one is multiply. If you're teaching anybody anything that they're going to use or teach someone else, you're multiplying. You're helping someone teaching someone so they can teach someone else. You're multiplying your influence. You're helping people multiply their wealth. That's a multiplication thing. Maybe for you, you're expanding. You're scaling something. You're making it bigger. And maybe you're a stay-at-home parent. You're stewarding your kids some days, and some days they're creating with you, and it's paint all over the walls, but it's still creating. You're teaching, and it's multiplying out. You're expanding your influence as your kids go out into the world. All of these are things that are unique calling of human beings, that God created us originally to work. That's a calling of a human being. See, working isn't a curse, it's a human calling. See, in Scripture, the whole idea of work being a curse, a bad thing, that comes out of Greco-Roman time, which is a time of Scripture, in particular the New Testament, where the whole idea was that you don't want to work. That the greatest job you could have is like a philosopher, like Aristotle or Plato, because you just sit there and think. And you don't have to work, and somebody feeds you grapes and they drop them in your mouth, right? That was the whole idea, that you don't want to work, that work is menial. You don't want to do any physical work. And the Hebrews come along and say, like, no, God designed you to work. It's not a curse. It's a part of who you are, that you are made for this as a human being. Not just people who are followers of Jesus, just as human beings, that we're made for this. This is something we all get to experience. That if you're a follower of Jesus here today, let me just explain to you what this means, because this is so important. What it means is we don't evaluate the importance of someone's work by how much money they make. We don't look and go, oh, well, this person makes more money, so their work is better than this person. Or this person makes more money, so their work is better than this person. Or their business has made more money than your business, so, oh man, what they do is more important. No, because we value work. We value when people are producing or expanding or multiplying. And that comes down to every bit of work, whether it's gardening. I mean, maybe for you, you're older, or you have some kind of physical challenge, and for you, your work is smaller every day. Maybe you organize some things, or some little jobs you take care of every day. All of that is a calling that followers of Jesus value work. And when we see the intrinsic value of a human being working, and it's not about how much money they make. I want to explain more of this to you, okay? And it says this. Then God said, this is what it says next, I've given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth and all the fruit trees for your food. And then he says this. He says, and I've given you every green plant as food for all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, the small animals that scurry along the ground. They're clearly popular. He's talked about them twice. Everything that has life. And that's what happened. This is mind-blowing to me. What's happening is, I want you to realize, the Garden of Eden at the beginning, when God created it, was not the destination. It was just the beginning. That was the original design. That it had all of these resources. And people say, well, you know, Adam and Eve, they named the animals and they did some gardening, I guess. But that's not what this was about at all. This was about human beings taking the resources God had given and multiply and expand and organize. And God had cities in his vision of what this would become as human beings worked. See, God created and calls you to continue the work. That as we work, this is all a part of what we were originally designed for. That when you do good work, when you sit down and you're like, man, this is going to be a killer email. Come on now, you think that sometimes. When you do a great job at email, when you do a great job with a customer, when you do a great job with your garden, when you do a great job cutting the grass, when you change that diaper like no one's changed the diaper. Your work is worship. That even if you don't believe in God, there's something called common grace, that you get to experience this little glimpse of who God is when you get satisfied with your work. When you serve that coffee, when you help that customer, when you make that code, and it's just the most beautiful code you've ever written. And to me, it just looks like code, frankly. I don't even know what it means, but I'm sure it's beautiful. Good work points to the presence and the beauty of our good God. If you're a student, you got exams coming, and I know, man, it's sunny outside, and you're like, I just want to go hang out with my friends. I want the school year to be over. But when you apply yourself on that day and study, God sees that. Your work is worship. John Mark Comer wrote a book on this called Garden City, and he says this. He says, the vast majority of you are serving outside the church, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are serving outside the kingdom. And it definitely doesn't mean that what you do isn't spiritual or doesn't matter to God. It doesn't mean it isn't spiritual. It matters to God, the work you do. And what's amazing to me is how God is using all of this. He's using all of this work to orchestrate and to build and expand and multiply. I was thinking about this past week. I was sitting on my patio. This is my patio. And 5 years ago, it did not look like this. It was not the kind of place you would want to hang out. When we bought the house, they hadn't done much work on it. And we decided to have the patio redone. And this past week, I had some of our staff team on my back patio, and we were planning our services for the fall and all of next year. And then later on that week, we've got a group of young adults that hang out at my house on Sunday night. So we had about 30 people at the house, and a bunch of them were hanging out there, and it's community, and it's prayer, and it's scripture, and it's just been a real encouragement to Leslie and I. And we were hanging out with some of them on the patio. You know what I got thinking about? I got thinking about all the people who worked to make this patio possible. That you're like, oh yeah, I know, you hired landscapers, because you all know I couldn't do that. So you hired landscapers, you got some people. Yeah, sure, but think about this. What about the tools that those landscapers used? Where did they come from? Somebody made them. Somebody made the trucks that it came in. Somebody shoveled the soil with a backhoe that it came in. Somebody made this interlocking brick and they brought it to Simcoe Block. Somebody drove the ship. Do you drive a ship? Do you pilot a ship? I think you pilot a ship, right? You pilot a ship. I see some nods. Thank you. That somebody had to get that here. They had to fly it here. They had to order it. They had to get it in, like all of that stuff. You think, how many people were involved? There's a guy, there's probably more than a guy, there's probably a team of men and women who oversee the water plant right here in the city of Barrie that makes sure this water that's in this inflatable hot tub is clean. Don't forget them. And I thought, there's probably 100 people who built this patio. When you add it all up, it's probably 100 people. Made those Muskoka chairs and made these fireplaces. And I think, man, all of those people working together to create a space where people could find community and meet Jesus. And they didn't even know. They didn't even know. That when you change that diaper and you've got a dream for that child, you don't even know. That when you're wiring that building or doing that plumbing, you don't even know. You're landscaping that property. And just by doing it itself, it's what God designed you to do. It brings him glory. I mean, listen to this. It says this in the next verse. It says, then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good. And evening passed and morning came, marking the sixth day. And so the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was complete. And on the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. It says this, and God blessed the seventh day, declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all of his work of creation. Now, here's a question. After 6 days, on the seventh day, God rests. Why is God resting? God doesn't get tired. Well, he rests for one reason, to model it for you and me. Because while you're made in his image, you're not God. And if you didn't know that, that's a good message for you to hear today. That you're a human being. And he wants to model rest, but there's another reason. There's another reason that to me is so important. God didn't rest because he was tired, but because he wanted to delight in his work. He says the work was good. Isn't there something special about delighting in good work? There's something about that you and I know is different. You know, when I mow the lawn in the front yard, I can't help but look out the window at that lawn like 8 times on Saturday. Right? And I look at it, I'm like, whew, you cut that lawn. Look at those lawn lines. Man. And my kids are like, you're looking at the lawn again, right? Yeah. But isn't there something to that? In just taking a moment to delight in your work? Some of you need to get better at this. You just move on to the next thing. You just move on to the next job. You just jump in the car at the end of the workday and you don't think about the good work you did. The customer you served, the kid you helped, the hair you cut. Man, you got that haircut, like you just nailed it. Like that guy was ugly and you made him handsome. right? The nails you painted, that plumbing, the way that pipe just, and that like nobody could drill that hole like you did. God delights in work. There's a woman named Dorothy Sayers, and she's famous actually for novels, but she's also famous kind of for this essay that she wrote. She died in the 50s, and the essay was called Why Work? And she says this, she says, the only Christian work is good work well done. Another way to put it is all good work is sacred. See, sometimes we believe the lie, and churches have perpetuated the lie, that people who work full-time for a church do more important work, or more spiritual work, I should say. And that's not true. That what I do is not more spiritual than you do. And God is as pleased with your good work as he is with mine. That all good work is sacred. If you feel like, man, I got this job and it's not really the job I want right now, but I need the money and I do a good job and nobody sees me, God sees. God sees. Even if it's a little thing, even if you aren't working right now, even kind of an employed job, but you do the little things around the house, or you're doing small things, or you're helping with these things or that, God sees the work you do. And there's a sacred thing about that. I like to say it this way, God is at work in your work. He's there before you get to work. He's there present where you do good work. And he's in the midst of your good work. So then the question becomes this, because this, I think, is the real question some of you will be asking. Jeff, if God is in my work and I'm designed to work and I'm doing all this work, that God just loves it when I do good work, then why is work so hard? Why does it get messed up? Why do people not pay their bills? Why do I have conflict with other employees? Why can I never get that staff member? Why does she? Why does he? Because it's usually them who are the problem, right? Why is work so hard? Well, you only have to turn a couple of chapters to find that out. See, God said to Adam and Eve, hey, you got the whole garden here. There's just one tree that I don't want you to eat from. And they do. They go outside the boundary of what God designed. God designed this whole thing, but for them it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to be made in the image of God. They wanted to be like God and eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is something that has plagued humanity ever since. They wanted to be like God, and they ate it. And this is what happened. It says, and to the man, God said, since you listened to your wife, you ate from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat. The ground is cursed because of you. And then he says this, all your life, you're going to struggle to scratch a living from it. It will grow thorns and thistles for you, though you will eat of its grains. This is a moment in humanity where the brokenness of sin enters our lives, enters our world, and enters our work. It's why work is sometimes hard. It's why you want to do good work, but you also want to procrastinate. It's why you want to do good work, but you lost that job. It's why there's a desire in you to do something well, but man, sometimes it just doesn't go well. The workday doesn't go well. You don't get the sales that you need. Your business struggles. There is a struggle with sin and brokenness in our work. That your desire to work is human, but your struggle to work is also human. There is the sin that creates brokenness in our work. And it's why we want to do great work and we want to honor God with work, but at the same time, it's hard to do. There's a struggle in it. And it's this same struggle that we experience at work, that we experience in our lives, that we experience in our relationships, and it's why God sent his Son to bring forgiveness and redemption of sin. that he sent his perfect son to die on a cross for the redemption of our sin, that we could come to God and find forgiveness of our sin. And this is how Paul writes it in Romans. Says this. He says, so God did what the law could not do. The law, living perfectly, trying to get work perfect, trying to get your life perfect, trying to live perfectly, which you just can't do. So God did what the law could not do. He sent his own perfect son in a body like the bodies we sinners have. And in that body, God declared an end to sin's control over us by giving his son as a sacrifice for our sins. What's interesting to me about the passage we looked at today is this. It's interesting to me that in Genesis we see that the challenge of our broken world because of sin, when it comes to work, the description God uses is thorns and thistles. And I can't help but wonder if this is why Jesus on the cross wore a crown of thorns. That he died for the brokenness even in your work. That Jesus is present on the days when it's not going well. On the days you want to work and you can't. On the days it feels like work is broken. He died for that brokenness. He wants to make you free of it. He wants to be present with you in the midst of it. He wants to give you hope in the midst of it. That your desire to see great work done, his desire is to continue to redeem people and redeem situations and see great work done. That on the hardest days of work and the most difficult days of work, the most difficult relationship with work, or if you aren't able to work, or you wonder about purpose in work, that Jesus is present in the midst of it. That he understood what it was to carry the thorns and thistles, the challenging things of work. Paul says this in Colossians. He says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. Say, man, remember. Remember on the days when it feels broken at work. Remember on the days when your work isn't going well. Remember on the days it's a struggle. Remember on the days you're like, I wish these kids just act like human beings. That Jesus knows the struggle. He died for the brokenness in our world. And that you can bring that to him and surrender it to him and find forgiveness and find his presence and find somebody to walk with you through it and to find freedom and to find redemption and to find a greater story. That instead of relying on your work to give you purpose, relying on your Savior to give you purpose at work. Maybe what you do isn't as important as who you do it for. The one who knew what it was to have a hard day at work, who knew the brokenness of work, who knew the struggle that we would have. That's the tension we live in. Now, here's something that I want to tell you that some of you might not like. There's going to be work in heaven. Did you know that? Some of you are like, oh my gosh, I knew it. Yeah, Scripture's clear in Isaiah, Revelation. We're going to talk about it next week. That there's going to be work in heaven, that you're going to have responsibilities. So there are going to be things to do. You know, some of you are like, thank the Lord. I thought we were just going to be singing up there. I was like, that's not my thing. There's going to be work. It's going to be responsibilities. It's going to be things to do. That's going to be a part of heaven. But it's not going to come with the brokenness. It's not going to come with the thorns and thistles. It's going to come with a freedom and a joy and a reward of delighting in who we are serving and what we are doing. There's a contemplative named Dallas Willard, theologian. He has this phrase. He says this, your work is training for reigning. That on this earth, as you work through laziness and procrastination and hard relationships and struggling to keep your business going and struggling to get out of bed to go to work in the morning and struggling to figure all this out, all that's doing is you bring it to God, as you bring it to who God is, you say, Jesus, I know you're present on this hard day. I know you care about my work. I know it's important to you. and I'm bringing it to you. Your heart is being shaped. Your soul is being shaped. That God is working on your soul, not just on Sunday, but on Monday, and on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, and on Thursday, and Friday. And he's doing that at your workplace. That God is at work in your work. God is at work in your work. And he's training you, and he's molding you, and he's making you. That your work is training for reigning. And so some of you are like, okay, Jeff, like normally, like you give me like 8 steps, like where's that? Like 8 things I got to do. We're going to get some more practical stuff in the next 2 weeks, but here's what I want you to do. I want to remind you that God is at work in your work. And this week, whatever you do, when you're sitting that email, when you're on that Zoom call, when you got to have that hard meeting, when you're working in the garden, when you're running your grandkids to the 8th hockey practice, when you're studying for your exams, when you're dealing with that difficult customer, when you're running that plumbing line or that electrical or building whatever it is or landscaping or helping that patient or putting your content online, whatever it is, and it's a difficult day, I want you to know that God sees your desire to do good work. And it's important to him. And it's sacred to him. And he's present in the midst of it. That God is in your work and he's at work. And he wants to continue through your work to change you and mold you to make him more like himself. Let me pray. God, we come to you today. And as we begin this journey of discovering how you see work, what you want to do in our lives through our work, I pray that your Spirit would be speaking to us. God, we all come with different relationships to work, to jobs, to purpose, and I pray that your Spirit would be speaking to each of us in a real way. God, thank you that you're not just a Sunday God, that you're working with us the rest of the week, working in us the rest of the week, and that our work is a part of that. And I pray all of this in your name. Amen.